Good evening and welcome to the Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting. Today is Monday, October the 6th. This meeting is now called to order. I am the chair, Councilmember Michelle Harley for the 4th District. And at this time, I will call the roll call for the members of the Finance Committee first and then all other council members. Vice Chair Brady.
Present.
Councilmember Darby. Councilmember Hackett.
Here.
Councilmember Oliver. Councilmember Spadola. President Congo. Councilmember Owens. Councilmember Cabrera. Councilmember Willard. Councilmember Johnson. Council members.
Madam Chair, I'm also here.
All right, thank you, President Congo. Okay, we're going to jump right into our agenda for this evening. We have 5 pieces of legislation on the agenda. We have actually 4 ordinances, 1 resolution, and none of these pieces of legislation have to be voted out on tonight. So at this time, we're going to start with our first item on the agenda, which is an ordinance constituting amendment number 1 to the fiscal year 2026 operating budget, being an ordinance to amend substitute number 1 to ordinance number 25-009, and I am the sponsor. So I am going to start off by sharing an overview with our audience here in the room as well as our audience online. This particular amendment makes a targeted budget change to help the city validate the reassessment results and support low-income homeowners navigating the appeal process. Additionally, the amendment will fund a review of the methodology used to assess commercial and non-residential properties in Wilmington. There were 3 areas of concerns outlined in the Tyler Technologies report. The model relied heavily on exterior inspections and limited interior data, even though interior condition is a major value driver in Wilmington's housing stock. Many of the properties used in the sales study were superior homes, meaning in better condition than the broader housing stock. The sales sample was not representative, and the model likely borrowed values from higher quality comparables when estimating lower value homes. The program goals. Number 1, we want to address overassessment of lower value properties. Lower value or more modest homes were often overassessed, while higher end properties were less affected, because many lower income neighborhoods contain older or less renovated housing. This amendment is designed to fund independent validation and corrective efforts to assess and address those disparities. Number 2, regarding program goals, ensuring that uniformity and fairness in these particular assessments. The Tyler report highlights high variability and non-uniformity across Wilmington properties. A COD of 22.68 indicates wide divergence between assessed and actual market values, meaning 2 similar houses could be taxed very differently. The approach led to systematic non-uniformity, undermining public confidence and the fairness of the tax system. For Wilmington, where block-by-block variation in home condition is significant, that non-uniformity has serious equity implications. So what is this amendment going to do? So 1 is going to add $425,000 for independent validation and consulting. Number 2 is going to create a $75,000 grant program for low-income homeowner appeals. And as it relates to the administration, the program will be administered by the administration of the program, that is, The program will be administered by a nonprofit organization, not directly by the city. Partnering with a community-based nonprofit allows the program to be nimble, trusted, and efficient. And the use of the funds, the grants can cover appraisals, legal assistance, and or filing fees. So I thought it was very important to share an overview about this amendment. There was a lot of discussion to take place between the leadership of council, some other council members, along with our mayor, his chief of staff, the deputy chief of staff, Stephanie Mergler, as well as Saran, as well as Daniel Walker. So these discussions took place over a period of months. Once learning about the Tyler report and the disparities and the inequities, there was a lot of research to take place, and we definitely wanted to make sure as a city, as the city of Wilmington, even though we were not charged to do the particular assessment, we were not charged, but we wanted to make sure that those neighborhoods, as I already shared in my overview, those neighborhoods that were identified by Tyler Technologies that were above the threshold, that the city of Wilmington wanted to do something about it. So that is what this particular amendment is going to do. So at this time, I'm going to ask if our Deputy Chief Steph Mergler have any remarks at this time.
Thank you, Chair. That was a great intro, and I think it really covered exactly what we're trying to do here. So I just want to say thank you very much for your collaboration. We appreciate being able to work on this with you and Councilwoman Willauer, and we look forward to moving forward.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Any questions by our council members? Councilmember Hackett?
This is not a question. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. This is not a question. I just want to give a good shout out to Councilwoman Willauer for her work and her consistency and trying to also just explain to our constituents what's going on, and also explaining to city council members, the equation and the disparities. She was very helpful to me to be able to go back into the community and explain. And I'm happy that, once again, city council and the mayor's administration can work together to continue to help the people in the city of Wilmington. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hackett. Councilmember Bracy?
Thank you. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you. Duly noted. I would like to acknowledge on the line Councilmember Spadola, Councilmember Oliver, and Councilmember Darby. Councilmember Hackett?
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Duly noted. Okay, and as it has already been stated, there has been a number of conversations regarding this particular topic. I do, too, want to thank Councilmember Willauer, but there were a number of conversations that had gotten started before Councilmember Willauer got involved, but she definitely did a great job. And I want to acknowledge her for the research. We know that she loves to do research, and we do appreciate it. But there were a number of conversations that took place before that, of course, because we have leadership meetings. And we do want to thank all the council members that added their comments and shared their concerns. And it truly was a collaborative effort, and this is a collaborative piece of legislation. So again, if there is anyone in the public that would like to make a comment, you can at this time.
Councilman Hawley, my hand is up. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. Councilmember Oliver?
Now, I want to echo off first, I'd like to be added as a sponsor, and I'd like to thank you for your great presentation, your opening remarks, which was really, gave an overall review of what's going on. And I, too, would like to say there had been a lot of conversations with council members, with leadership, such as yourself, such as Tish, and some other ones, and talking to Stephanie, the administration. So I want to thank everybody for the outstanding work they have done with this piece of legislation, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Oliver. Any other council members?
Yes. This is Councilmember McCoy. I just would like to be added as a co-sponsor to the ordinance.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so at this time, if there are no other comments from the public or from the council members, we are going to turn it back over to the administration to see if anyone has any final comments before we move on to our next item. Councilmember Willire? Councilmember Willire? Are you on mute?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can now.
Councilwoman Harley, I'm just at the door. Could I ask your permission for a couple minutes to come in and speak?
I'll do public.
Yeah, you at the door? Yeah, come on in. What do you mean, what door?
I'm just right outside. I'll be right there in a second.
Oh, sure,
Okay, thank you.
sure. You can come to the podium and share your name.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Harley and Chairwoman Harley. I'm Jamila Davey. I'm in the 5th District. And I wanted to make a comment on the legislation ordinance to amend the budget and to create some capacity to look at how Tyler Technologies did its assessment on the commercial side and to do the interior assessments for residential properties. So I've been attending some of the meetings that have been going on at council since back in February and heard from a lot of residents who had concerns about the process and accessing either when it was the informal appeals and so we got to the formal appeal process. And overall, I just, this is a point I made. I communicated last Tuesday after hearing all the things happening down at the legislature that, that an appeal process isn't an adequate solution to the situation given people's lack of resources and the imbalance of knowledge and all that, to get at that. There obviously mistakes have been made. So I'm really happy to see the city making efforts, to address that and that they're providing, wanting to provide support to residents to have their reassessments done. And I haven't heard the full conversation that you had today, but I do have some questions about, what's ahead and what's planned. And so I'm very concerned that we do dig into the commercial properties because I know I was here, was it the last intergovernmental committee where a lot of the small businesses spoke out about the problems that they're having with the land value, with their property values overall. But we've also seen the analysis that shows that there's really disparities at the level of land valuation, and that when we bifurcated the rates, those smaller businesses, their problems they were having were exacerbated by that. And then we also know in this revenue neutral model where we have a sum that if somebody's taxes go down, somebody else pays them. So no matter what we do, if we get our residential properties right and we don't get the commercial ones right, and we know that there's like a small set of really valuable properties whose taxes went down millions of dollars, as long as that doesn't get back into the kitty, then everybody over here is still making it up. So it doesn't get fair. It's never fair until we get that revenue back. And then also something I'm really concerned about is the lack of permitting data and the lack of income information. Because we learned that when Tyler didn't have the actual data for our market, they went to their model. So they're using that model to validate our information, and it's not local. And it's validating this model that we know that computer-assisted mass appraisals are known to bias toward higher value properties. So we're already systematically disadvantaging lower value property owners, and that tends to overlap with race and ethnicity as well. So we have systemic bias built into this, and we already know that permits are indicators of people investing in their properties. So those people systematically who invested in their properties were assessed at a lower rate because that data wasn't there. And then we also know that I was reading about this tonight too. You can look into it, but the on scale. Commercial properties are smaller. And so, over the United States, if you're looking at their model, their model is built on, a mass of properties across the United States, and most of them are like retail stores. So we know, there's just the way the math works, it ends up biasing, undervaluing our mega big properties. So it's just another thing. There's all these things going towards the commercial properties. So main point is we got to fix the commercial properties if we're going to fix our taxes. So thank you for taking this issue on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next.
Hi, my name is Cheyenne Miller. I'm a resident in the 7th District, and I also am a volunteer with the Homes Campaign. Also want to say thank you so much for putting up this legislation. This is going to, I think, do a lot of good for the city, and honestly, I believe is one of the biggest commitments we've seen from local government in this entire property tax situation, to actually take a second look at the numbers. I think it's really going to benefit homeowners in the city, especially those who've been like overassessed and haven't had an opportunity to go through the appeals process and get their stuff corrected. So I just want to say thank you for putting this up. I also want to put some recommendations up. We learned from the special committee that was held like a week ago at the state level that I guess Tyler Technology had only collected like 1% of the commercial properties information that was needed to assess whether or not their properties are valued correctly. And it sounds like they didn't get all the information they needed. And from what I'm understanding, I could be wrong, it looks like this legislation focuses mostly on homeowners. And I think the commercial properties definitely have to get added in. The city should definitely take a second look to make sure that commercial properties are covered and that we're reassessing them as well, because we just don't want to miss out on getting any of the revenue that they also owe. I know there were some examples of buildings downtown that were just wildly underassessed that we knew were just like, you know, they just need a second look. The other thing is I'm really concerned about what I saw online about the possibility of going into people's houses. I do understand that if it were an appraisal on a singular level, it may make sense to go into someone's house. But when you're doing an appraisal at this level with this many places, it kind of concerns me a little bit. I know there was a promise from the administration that they would not go into people's houses and hit them with code violations. But given the history of this city and knowing what they do, I am a little worried that they would still do that. And I think a lot of homeowners are too. And so I think if we could make sure that we're not requiring that they go into people's houses, that's important. The other thing about going into people's houses is it's not necessary, right? Like, you don't have to go into every single person's house to be able to do an assessment. The city typically collects permitting data, and that permitting data allows for people to see when there's renovations being made to a house. And so there should be on file in the city the data that's necessary to determine whether or not a home has been updated or not, which is great because that's less work for the city to have to pay for someone to go out. We don't want the city to spend more money than they need to. I just think it's a good bill. You know, it definitely needs to go through, but we want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that protects homeowners and continues to build the trust in the city. That's a thing a lot of people don't have, is trust in the city, and just making sure that, you know, we're not forgetting where the real money is, which is those commercial properties. The big ones are being undervalued and the small ones are being overvalued. So I just want to protect our small businesses. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Lynn Keelhorn. I want to thank both City Council and the Mayor's Office for putting forth this ordinance. I support it, and I think it's really great. I want to, in particular, thank Councilmember Willauer for all the many months of research and education of the community that she did. I know personally, seeing the research that she did and having her come out to speak to my church community, she spoke to Westminster's Peace and Justice Work Group, and I know many other groups around to share the research that she had done, and I think that has been very significant in getting the community to understand what the issues are and how flawed the original assessments really are and why they need to be relooked at. I'm still not clear on exactly how much the city can influence the county to have Tyler McConnell make do changes. I don't even know what the contract says in terms of whether they can really be held accountable to get things right. Maybe a completely separate organization is going to have to make things right. But I'm glad this is a first step towards relooking at least the residential properties to hopefully reduce the flaws in the initial assessments. And I want to echo what the other two have said in terms of how important it will be to relook at the commercial properties. that's going to be a big part of how we fix the flawed assessments. So that's what I really want to emphasize is I hope that will be what is looked at next. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank the public for sharing their comments, but I just want to underscore in my overview, I did say that this amendment will fund a review of the methodology used to assess commercial and non-residential properties in Wilmington. So it's going to cover commercial. And I also want to say thank you for the comments regarding these permits. Councilmember Willard and I had a very long conversation about that. And as we know today, if you were to get your home appraised, no one uses permits to get an appraisal. Today, if anybody gets their home appraised, the company will come in, they will look at the inside, they will look at the outside. So we're going to trust that the company that will be doing this work, we're going to make sure that they are competent, number one, and that they are aware of some of the concerns. But at the end of the day, just like you may have some individuals that don't want them to come in, that's fine. And we will make sure we have those discussions. But you have a number of people that really want to make sure that they are getting their market value out of their property. They want them to come in. So we want to honor those that don't, and we will make sure we have that discussion. But you also have a lot of people that their homes were undervalued because they did not come inside, and they didn't have any renovations. They don't have no permits to even come to the city to get. It's just that they did not have the opportunity to come inside. So we want it to be a fair process. We want it to be an equitable process for those neighborhoods, again, that Tyler has already pointed out. So all of the comments will definitely be considered and will be passed on to the administration. And as we continue this conversation, we definitely want to get it right. We would not be spending this amount of money not wanting to get this right. So again, we appreciate your feedback. Councilmember Willard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I apologize for being a little bit late, and I'm really glad I could catch the discussion online and be here for the public comments. I also want to echo what Councilmember Harley said about the collaborative process. I mean, there's been a lot of dialogue between the city. Ms. Mergler, thank you for answering questions and sharing data, and to the administration for meeting with council members and working together. So, and then there's been a lot of council members who've been talking to their constituents about these issues. So I just really want to thank all the council members who've been super engaged with the residents who are facing bills they can't afford, and the small businesses who are seeing tax bills that just don't make any sense to them. So I think this is great. I also want to really thank the administration for taking this step. I think Ms. Miller said that this has been a step that no other jurisdiction has taken in Newcastle County, so it's just really important. I went to the hearings in Dover where the legislators were looking into the process, so it's clear there have been a lot of mistakes along the way, and I just really want to acknowledge the fact that this administration has stood up and said, yes, we're going to do something about this. So I really think that's great, and I want to say thank you again. And my feedback on this legislation, which I'm looking forward to talking with Councilwoman Harley and the administration about, is that, I do work in my business is I do a lot of compliance, and one of the things we do is compliance on federal grants. And the federal grants have this thing called choice limiting actions, which is if you get money from the federal government, you're not supposed to do anything that would limit your choices until you get an environmental review. So choice limiting actions, I think, is a really great way to think about how to write legislation too. And I would just suggest that we don't have, I think that it's important that we consider the condition of the interior as part of the valuation of residential properties. But I think that going inside is only one of them. So I would just suggest that the language reflect that the expert consultants are able to determine the best way for just so we don't lock ourselves into something. So I would like to suggest that. And I also echo and I'm really glad to see the administration's commitment to looking at the assessment methodologies used by Tyler for commercial properties, especially because at that hearing last week when they said they got back 1% of the income statements from commercial properties, like their numbers just are not, that they're not our numbers. And I think that it's really important that we ensure that properties in the city of Wilmington are paying taxes based on the actual value of their property. So again, I really want to thank everybody for all the conversations and all the hard work on this, and I'm looking forward to the next steps.
Thank you, Councilmember Willard. I want to acknowledge President Congo. I believe he's on the line. Okay, Councilmember Owens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had first off, apologize for being late, and want to thank both you and Councilwoman Will Heller for bringing this forward. I just had a quick point of clarification. I don't know if it's been said already, but just for me to sleep better, Tyler Technology will not be hired to review their own work, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Thanks for bringing that up. That was a good one. So, an RFP actually is going out to make sure that it's fair. And again, I just want to say on behalf of this whole topic of permits that we want it to be equitable. And for those homeowners that want it, we want them to be able to allow them to come in. So we do not want to create legislation where it prohibits the experts in going into individuals' homes if they want them to come in. And if they don't want them to come in, we want to make sure that the language speaks exactly just to that. Okay, and thank you everyone for your comments. And at this time, I believe Councilmember Spadola, his hand is up. Councilmember Spadola, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for joining late and if this was already covered, but I have to ask. So I've read some conflicting things from the county in terms of if they would accept these assessment numbers, because it would be a shame if we spent $500,000, and then the county was like, that's great and all, but we're not accepting those numbers. So can somebody speak to what assurances they will get from the county before we go through with this?
Thank you. Deputy Chief Mergler can speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Speak to it.
Certainly. So we have had conversations with the county. They have indicated that they would be willing to work with us. I do know that County Executive Marcus Henry indicated that they believe that they can only alter the assessment through the appeals process. However, he did also mention that it can be adjusted due to errors. And in this case, we do think that there was an error. And there was an error as called out in Tyler's report. It specifically says that there is a problem in the city of Wilmington, Zone 3. So we are just proposing adding data to help correct that error. And so we will, but nevertheless, we have no interest in, of course, spending a lot of money that can't be used to actually fix anything. So we will continue to work with the county and ensure that if we move forward, that this will be a successful process.
Thank you. Could you provide something in writing from the county? Because I would just hate to spend $500,000 on this and there be some confusion. That would just help my concerns that so we're all on the same page and we can refer to it in 6 months next year.
Mm-hmm. Noted. As I said, we will continue to ensure that we get that affirmation from the county.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hackett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for Deputy Chief Mergler. So am I clear that with an RFP, that means that Tyler Technology is able to bid again and possibly be awarded in the RFP because it's fair practice. Like, we can't exclude anybody, or is there any exclusions?
I am not a procurement expert, but we are working with PFM an advisory company to help us build the RFP. So I will absolutely ask them, what is our recourse here? So can we limit it to companies that are not the one that we're evaluating? So we'll review that. We'll review that with the law department and also with our procurement department and with PFM when we build the RFP.
Thank you. I just wanted to put that on the record beforehand.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any other council members that would like to comment? Okay. I don't see any hands in the public. Okay, Cindy, are you on Zoom? Are you on mute?
Hi, yes. Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I just want to say that I have lived in the city of Wilmington for about 39 years, and I would like to say that this whole council is absolutely wonderful. I've never had any much support, from previous. I mean, they've been okay and stuff, but this one, you guys go beyond what you should be doing for the community. And with this bill, it just shows that you guys care and that you've listened to us. And I want to say thank you so much for that, because this has not been a fair situation. And I want to commend all of you for working together, especially Councilwoman Willard. I mean, we are we live paycheck to paycheck, and we can't afford, to have all of our taxes raised for nonsense. And I just want to commend all of you for helping the people of the city of Wilmington. That's what I'd like to say. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that comment, and thank you for sharing as it relates to the council, because we do work very hard and we do listen to our constituents and our community, and that is why this legislation is on the agenda to be voted on, because we do care and we do want to make sure that we are addressing those with the disparities and those that have a gap between the assessment and their market value. So thank you again. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item on our agenda. And it's an ordinance to amend Chapter 44 of the City Code to exempt from the city's earned income tax the wages and compensation paid by the United States to any person for active service in the uniformed services of the United States. And who's here to speak to this ordinance?
Madam Chair, so this is Councilman McCoy. I
Council.
don't know. Yes, I'm not certain whether or not the gentleman who presented this information to me is in attendance,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
Is he?
Yes, he is, Councilmember McCoy. Yes,
Okay.
he's heading up to the podium now.
Great. So I just want to give just a little bit of background. So Mr. Samlock, he sent an email and brought this to my attention. What he has made me aware of is the fact that Chapter 44, which talks about the wage taxes for initially it was basically our armed service persons who are in, the armed service, which is like the Marines, the Air Force, the Army, Navy, and such. Well, there are other services in the United States that are active duty, and he wanted to make me aware of that. Now, he is a person who is, who is actually serving in one of those branches, which is the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, and also the Public Health Service. So he is one of those branches, and how we need to now update when it comes to the wage tax. We need to update the definition rather than saying armed service, but uniform service, because we have other service branches that are benefiting the United States, and we want to make certain that as they are out on active duty, that they are not subjected to the wage taxes for the city. At the moment, he made me aware that he may be the only person in the city of Wilmington, so this may be a nominal fee. But after talking to having sending this information to our finance director and in the law department, and them taking a look at it, they do believe that this will be just a minimal fiscal impact.
Thank you,
So,
council member.
yeah. So, if Mr. Samluck is there, then he might be able to explain more.
Oh, okay. Welcome, sir. You can just announce your name
Um,
and your organization.
okay. Good evening, Madam Chair and fellow council members. My name is Jesse Samluck, or professionally Lieutenant Jesse Samluck. I'm a lifelong city resident, minus a couple stints on active duty. Just a couple things before I get into it. I am actually, like Councilman Spadola, I'm actually prior Army Reserve. Before I hopped into this uniform. So a little bit about me, born and raised in Wilmington. I actually live in my grandfather's old house, who actually ironically used to sit in Councilwoman McCoy's seat from 1968 to 1984. And he was public safety chair. He was at large, 6th District. My father was a city firefighter, Engine 6. I followed in his footsteps a bit, even though I'm on the volunteer side at 5 Points. I'm a reservist in the U.S. Public Health Service. So, and there's another, and I'll go into what we do on that end. Professionally, I'm a patent examiner with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. That is my day job. So I went to school down the road, University of Delaware, bachelor's or PhD in electrical and computer engineering. I also am a licensed attorney. So, you know, the law is my language there too. More on the patent side though. So, a little bit about the Public Health Service and NOAA Corps. I'll speak a little bit on NOAA Corps because they're actually smaller than us. So there's 8 uniformed services, of which those 8, there's 6 armed forces. You have the Army, which me and Councilman Spadola were in. Army, Navy, subset of that's Marine Corps, Air Force, Space Force, and the Coasties, the Coast Guard. On the other side, there are Public Health Service and NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration Commission Officer Corps. On the regular Corps side of the Public Health Service, we're about 5,500 officers strong. On the Reserve side, our roots trace back to 1918 on the Reserve, but we were signed into law with the Affordable Care Act in 2010. We weren't funded until COVID, and they brought on a bunch of reservists. We were operating with temporary dollars, and that expired last year. We're actually on a pause. I never thought drill in my life would be canceled, but we're trying to get that squared away with Congress. I will give a side thank you to council. You have moved so fast on this. I was actually supposed to be deployed to El Paso, Texas for the border mission in mid-September. This has gone so lightning fast. You're light years ahead of Congress when I go down to Capitol Hill there. So thank you very much on that. So anyway, our primary mission with the Public Health Service is, it's not just COVID. That is our primary thing, is ensuring the health of the nation. But we can go on various missions. I can be attached to DHS. I can be attached to Department of War. There have been public health officers throughout our history, tracing back to 1798, that have been in armed conflicts, and some have honestly paid the ultimate price. Same goes for NOAA Commissioned Officer Corps. They're about 300 strong. They're an active duty only branch. But one of the common nuances we find in law is that when we see armed forces, it excludes the 2 branches inherently. But then other legislation will say military. Well, military is kind of a gray area, because I can pull out federal statute that says, like SICRA, Civil Service Members Civil Relief Act, that includes us, and we're defined military there. So it's really kind of a gray area. So we advise, when we're going through legislation, whether it be Congress or at State House in Dover, which we've done that too, or even here, to use uniform services. That way it covers all 8 branches and those that may follow. There's been discussions on making a uniform cyber branch. We don't know if that's going to be an armed force, how the Space Force was. We're trying to figure out what the Space Force does. But or they can be a uniform service. We just don't know yet. So this is the best course of action, is to use uniform service. The reason why I brought this up was because, again, I was deploying, and right now, as you know, I pay my wage tax for drill pay, right? Mm-hmm. But when I head out the door, Well, I'm going to be in Nowheresville, and I have to worry about sending in a check when my armed forces brethren, when they're on active duty, don't. They are mission focused. They don't have to worry about sending their quarterly taxes in to City Hall. As it stands right now, I am the only reservist within the city limits. So I just figured, you know what, for those that follow, whether it be regular component or reserve component, that we should get this straight, and I'm willing to help out City Council in any way I can with any previous and future legislation that may involve military benefits.
Thank you.
To include
We
us.
appreciate that.
I'll yield my
Thank
time.
you
Thank
so
you.
much for educating us on all that information you share with us. We really do appreciate that. And in the future, if we have any needs as it relates to you coming in, we possibly will bring you in for a presentation. Would you like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the council members? Any council member Owens?
Thank you for bringing this forward. Can I be added as a co-sponsor, please?
Council member Hackett?
Second, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Council member Bracy?
Yes, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor. I just wanted to add that I know of someone else that she lives right outside of Wilmington, and she is uniform services, public health, and she travels a lot. And so I understand what you're saying. Thank you for your service and serving our country and making sure that, Americans are healthy.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Council member Oliver?
Yeah, I too would like to be added as a co-sponsor, and I would like to thank Councilwoman McCoy for her rapid response to this request, and congratulations to anyone in the services. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the Zoom? Council member McCoy?
Yes, I'd like to thank all my colleagues for their support on this piece of legislation. It actually did go pretty fast because he had brought this to my attention during our break. And so not only did he reach out to me, he reached out to Councilman Spadola. So between the two of us, we were going to make certain that it got through. So thank you so much, Mr. Samluck, for coming and doing your presentation and giving us more information about what it is that you do for the public, for our public health, and making certain that not only are you covered, but anyone in the future is covered when it comes to the wage tax issue.
Yes. Thank you. Councilmember Darby?
Yes, can you please add me as a co-sponsor? Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other council members? Anyone from the public? Okay. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor as well. And again, none of these pieces of legislation have to be voted out. All of these pieces will be on the city council agenda on October the 16th. We're going to move on to our third item, which is an ordinance establishing a temporary moratorium on foreclosures due to property tax increases as long as the owner is on a payment plan. And who's here to speak to this legislation? Councilmember Owens?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this comes out of what we've been talking about for the last few months with everyone's reassessments, property taxes going into effect this year. I just wanted to create some type of safeguard to make sure that members of our community are not losing their homes, especially with what we know is a flawed system that was used for the city of Wilmington. Again, with talking with the administration, some of this is already common practice as a policy. So this would be more of a codifying piece of legislation so that if we are going to be doing tax-free assessments going forward as well too, this would be the language that we would use to make sure that no one's losing their homes as long as they are setting up payment plans.
Thank you. Councilmember Hackett?
Yeah, I'd just like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you. Any other council members? Councilmember Oliver?
Yes, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor, but I would also like to thank Councilman Owens for taking the second step and speaking to the administration. Like you said, I know it was already something in place, but for you to take the second step and get this for our homeowners or property owners, both who are going to have some difficulty because everybody's not going to figure this assessment, this flawed assessment out overnight. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other council members? Councilmember Willard?
Yes, I'm not on this committee. Can I be asked to be out as a co-sponsor, or do I have to wait until the meeting?
You could be the sponsor.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. And could I have a follow-up?
Yes.
Madam Chair? Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I just, I really appreciate Councilmember Owens, you bringing this forward and addressing this issue that people are worried, so this gives people peace of mind, which is really important at this time. My only question is I know people struggle sometimes with payment plans with the city of Wilmington, like they can't get through 311 or they don't know that that's an option. And so I'm just wondering, do you have to have on there the requirement that they're on a payment plan, or is that something that you would consider maybe
Could she
taking out?
speak up? I didn't hear what she said. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that, Christian?
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair. Wait a minute, Christian. Madam Chair, could you answer? Could she speak up? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. Can you?
Should I repeat myself?
Well, yes, I think pretty much she's asking, as long as the resident is on a payment plan, I believe she's asking the sponsor, does that have to be on there? Is that correct?
Yes, and that's because sometimes people who are, elderly, I just meet people who are not on payment plans, not through any fault of their own, but because maybe they haven't heard about the option for payment plans, or maybe they've had trouble getting through 311, or other things that are not, we wouldn't want anybody to not benefit from this legislation just because of those kinds of things. So I was just wondering if you might consider taking that part out.
Councilmember Owens?
It could definitely be a discussion. I don't know how that will impact the bill right now. I will say that I've taken some time to get to understand our system here, and I think if, from my understanding, if someone was to come forward and they're going through a process like that, but they were able to get onto a payment plan, this would help stay that process. Am I understanding that correctly? Maybe.
Is there someone, Director Taylor, please?
Hi, Brett Taylor, Director of Finance for the City of Wilmington. As a general practice, we do not take individuals to foreclosure for if they're on a payment plan. They may fall off the payment plan and are in default, but as long as they're making active payments, we don't do that. The other thing I want to just emphasize is that we're not going to consider, say you had no arrears leading into the property tax reassessment. You haven't made your payment because you're in appeal. These are things that we would never consider as part of the foreclosure process. Likewise, we know that the appeal process is going to be probably protracted. If they aren't making the payment, it would be helpful to inform us that you're not making the payment for that reason, so that if you get for instance, a 3-month notification that you haven't paid or a new bill, it's really helpful for you to contact us. But as a general rule, we only focus really for our foreclosures on our top owers. Most of those payments that are due are from years and years and years back. So, if the intent is to not, is to prohibit a foreclosure on a property due to this most recent reassessment, that is not our practice. Now, while laudable, may not be necessary. I mean, we can certainly codify it as part of not a codify, but we could promulgate a regulation or put it in the administrative board rules. But I've told my staff not to do that. In fact, they vet the sheriff's sale list with me every time it goes out, and we make sure that we're really getting the people who do owe large amounts. Certainly we wouldn't necessarily oppose this, but there's other ways that we could do it so that we can ensure, rather than codifying. But certainly your choice.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes, I do have one follow-up. So, let's say you, Director Taylor, you decide to retire, and we have a new administration come in as well too. Could they potentially, how it currently is set up right now, we do another reassessment 2030, right? Could they in 20 in 2031, could they come back and say, okay, anyone who can't pay their property taxes October 2031, if they haven't paid their bill by that deadline date, once we hit those 3 months, that they could go to foreclosure without something like this?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for not using the analogy about getting hit by a bus. But this particular ordinance is for a temporary period.
Correct.
For 12 months, so it would lapse. But in general, yes, I think that, if we have administrative board rules, we have regulations that are promulgated, that can be changed anytime. The city council sits on the administrative board. We have representation there. Certainly, that's something that if a new director came in and maybe just kind of a new tempo, a new attitude towards how they collect. So you're right in that respect.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that our residents are aware that there's help for property assessment fees. The city, the county, and the state. And so we, the council members, have to make sure that we are getting the information out to the constituents as it relates to what is happening in terms of legislation, in terms of what assistance that they can have access to and take advantage of. And I also believe that as we work with our constituents around payment plans, we are helping them to not get too far in the rears. Right. And so I do think that it was very good governance as it relates to this legislation to say if you're on a payment plan, because they need to be made aware. And so I do think that we can continue to work together to make sure that no one loses their home, make sure that no one loses their property, as well as we can make sure that they are getting the assistance. But we have to make sure that people are being held accountable. Our city, we pay our bills through property taxes and wage taxes. And property taxes is one of our major revenue streams. So again, I believe we can work together by getting the information out to the community and making the community aware of the assistance programs that are out there and whatever information they need to make sure that they keep their home. Thank you. Councilmember Darby, and then Councilmember Darby.
Oh, I thought you said, and then I thought you were continuing to talk. But yes, so two things I have questions about probably for our director, Brett, is in regards to the marketing of this, and then also, of course, to payment plans. So we know that for other payment plans in the city, 80% of people default, right? And we know they're not people are looking to pay. Like, people aren't saying they don't want to pay. I'm talking. People aren't saying that they don't want to pay. People are putting the money up, but they're eventually defaulting. So I think we really have to look at our payment plan policy, because I know that after a certain point, if I default, I can't ever go back onto a payment plan, right? So I think that is my concern with the payment plan part, is that we have, like, I'm not talking just to talk. This is like data. The data states that 80%, when it comes to another payment plan in regards to what we're going to talk about later, 80% of people default. So our payment plan process doesn't work for people. Like, whatever process is happening is not working for our community. And as someone, also, I'm gonna talk about data, and then I'm gonna talk about real life. because I can actually relate to what people are going through, is that I have gotten on payment plans. I want to pay my bills, but then I had defaulted, not because I didn't want to be held accountable for paying my bills, not that I was trying to get over a system. I just didn't have it, right? And do I believe that I should lose my house because of that, or do I believe in any of those things? No, I do not. So that's my concern, is really the payment plan, and also what does marketability look like for this program.
Well, I would be happy to accelerate the marketability of the program. I think as we were sitting here,
I'm so sorry, Brett. I have to go. My daughter just got in a car accident, so I gotta hang up, and y'all, that's more important, so I gotta go.
Thank
You
you.
can answer the question. I'll look at this later. Bye.
luck to your daughter. Um, I was before Councilmember Darby had raised her hand. I was sitting here thinking that I was just thinking about how I'm going to market this out to everyone, to the community, and I think we need to kind of double down on what our marketing looks like with all of the programs that we have, the UAP program, obviously, if we're talking about payment plans, putting that out there. We do have a high default rate. The real enforcement, there are very few enforcement techniques that we have at our disposal. Water shutoffs are one. Sheriff sales are two. Putting liens on properties are a given for both of those. We have also implemented assistance programs, payment plans. We have discount rates for seniors. We have discount rates for the disabled and for caregivers. We're trying to lay out as many options as we possibly can. One of the struggles that we're going to have, I'm going to manage expectations here. Okay. One of the struggles we're going to have in the next 2 years is that we're going to have a real downward pressure on our water sewer fund. I'm starting to get preliminary numbers from the financial statements, and I think that we're going to have to really have a conversation about what that water sewer fund looks like in the coming future. There's a lot of reasons for it, which I won't get into detail now, but we'll probably have I'd like to have maybe workshop it at some point with city council members about what that looks like, right? But keep in mind that anything you do that is going to affect one person is going to affect a whole set of other taxpayers. I am, like we said, the ordinance to establish a temporary moratorium of foreclosures, if that's the way you want to go, it's term limited, it's time limited. Our general practice is that we're not going to take them out for sheriff sale. If they're on a payment plan, we'll continue to work through with a payment plan. We can promulgate this in terms of administrative rule, so we can give our agents the information to do it, and we'll market it. Okay, so as far as this particular proposal is, I don't think we have a real problem. When it comes down to what Councilmember Darby was just talking about, I think we have to have a bigger discussion.
Thank you, Director. One opportunity that we could use to get the message about the down payment or whatever message we need to get out is put it in the water bill. Since everybody gets a water bill, I think that could be one of the most cost-effective ways to make sure that individuals get the message, because again, like I said, everybody gets a water bill and everybody typically looks at their water bill, hopefully. So I just wanted to make a suggestion.
Yeah, if I could just elaborate on that.
Yes, Director.
Yes. We have a water gazette. We have that in there. We put it on the water bill. We say what our options are. What we haven't done in the past year is put out blanket advertisements on Google, Facebook, and whatnot. We can certainly do that. We've also got a much improved over the last 6 months The Public Works Department's got a new media advisor through the Beasley Media Group. In addition, our Paymentus system can actually now send out emails and texts to our water customers. As long as we have that information, we can make a full court press to go ahead and do that. I think what we need to do is just create a brochure on what kinds of assistance and put it all in one place. I do agree that what I just described in terms of the things we do are all kind of in separate locations. We need to bring that together, and we can certainly socialize that through the media.
Thank you, Director.
So you have my commitment to go ahead and start working on that over the next 6 months.
Okay, Councilmember Oliver had her hand up, Councilmember Hackett, and then Councilmember Willard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a good piece of legislation. I just wanted to follow up, 'cause I know I've sent individuals in here and they have defaulted, and y'all have reestablished payment arrangements. So, I mean, you still do that on occasions. You still do that? Because you make, the way I hear tonight is that if they default, you don't make rearrangements, and that's not the case.
We make the arrangements.
Yeah, but the way I heard it tonight, I thought it was said that once you make a payment arrangement, and when they come back, if they've defaulted on it, you don't make another payment arrangement. And I'm just here to say, I know that's not true, because I have brought several people in, and y'all have made payment arrangements on every time I brought them in. So I didn't know that to be the case.
Well, we did promulgate some administrative board rules that said that if you're on a payment arrangement and you default, you shouldn't come back for another 6 months or another 12 months. But you caught me. We do give payment arrangements. We do give multiple payment arrangements when we are pressed. Look, when a customer comes in, we have to evaluate their situation. Right.
Well,
So
that was my next
sometimes
statement.
sometimes we make the call.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say, most of the time when I've brought or called up here for various constituents, if they called me, and if I've given them my card, you've always, your office and downstairs always helped them. So myself, I've never been in a situation where constituents came. Like you said, I guess they evaluated. But nevertheless, I wanted to say I think this is a good piece of legislation, and I like it because it's for a set period of time. It's not indefinite. And this is all around the reassessment, and this is the conversation we're having. So I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you, Councilmember Hackett.
Madam Chair, thank you. Brett, just a question. I just want to know, for this piece of legislation, and we're talking about property tax reassessment, and I know you said it's kind of up to you guys' call. Is there any way possible that in this legislation it can be added that if they did default on a payment plan, that you will accept them back for this payment plan?
I don't think it's necessary to put it in the ordinance. That's something we can just put into the administrative board rules.
No, I agree. I just wanted to make sure, because I guess it all depends on the situation, what it sounds like, if they will be able to go back onto a payment plan. I think this legislation is saying, because of the state we're in right now, everybody that's under this legislation should be able to be on a payment plan. So I just wanted to note that.
We can certainly consider it, but keep in mind, please, that we're trying to do the best we can to keep the city solvent.
Right.
An 88% default rate is troubling. One of the things we have to be careful about is messaging out that we have no accountability, right? That, if you default on your payment plan, I'll just get another one. Or, I just want to be sure that while we can be kind to our customers, we also have a fiduciary responsibility to the city.
And I agree. I just wanted to state it on this situation right here at this moment in time. And then, I guess we're going to talk later about, other things and the default rate and different things, because I'm always trying to figure out how do we help clients at the beginning so that they don't get on, being default or any payment plans. And, but we live in different times. So, understandable.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure out there.
Yeah.
Councilmember Willard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I think it's great that we're talking about payment plans as part of this, because I did want to say I had a constituent who was a senior citizen who saw a giant bump in their taxes, and they contacted 311 and asked to be put on a payment plan. And what they told me they were told was that 311 said that the city of Wilmington doesn't have any system in place for payment plans for residents to pay property taxes unless they're 3 years behind in their property taxes. So I think, maybe that was misinformation, or maybe that 311 person, maybe that's true, or maybe it's like not clear to all the staff members what the options are.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but
So anyway, I think it's really important that we have kind of clear policies so that the public, when they call, like looking for help and stuff like that, they all get the same answer. Because I think it's great that some people, there's flexibility, but it's also really important that there's consistency, and that people have access, that everybody has access if some people have access. So I just wanted to hope that out of this, the payment plan options are kind of more consistent. And then I also just wanted to remind everybody the situation that we're in. I totally believe in accountability too. But also, we just went through this reassessment, looking at the numbers for the property reassessment for Christina School District. I just noticed something like 53 of the largest taxpayers were paying $8 million less in school taxes to Christina School District. So we have to have accountability for, for residents of the city of Wilmington, but we really need accountability for every taxpayer. And that's why I'm glad we're going to be looking at what happened with some of our biggest taxpayers to make sure that everybody's paying their fair share.
Thank you.
the administration certainly supports your comment.
Thank you. And I just want to mention that there was legislation that was passed last term that is effective this term as it relates to property taxes that has not come into this conversation. And I'm not going to bring it up right now because it's not on the agenda, but there is other conversations going on to protect our most vulnerable constituents around property tax. It's a piece of legislation I sponsored before they completed the Tyler Technology assessment and reports. And it was also done in the spirit of redevelopment because I know there is a consistent message put out about redevelopment means that people can possibly be taxed out of their homes. So to make sure that there was a protection regarding that, this legislation was enacted last term, but we have to get through some of the kinks with it because of this Tyler Technology debacle. It skewed everything in terms of us executing this piece of legislation to support residents in the category of moderate to low income. So I just want to make sure that that gets out there, that there is a piece of legislation that has already been voted on, and the administration and myself and our leadership is meeting to fine tune it. So there's other protections and guardrails as it relates to homeowners that fall in the category of moderate to low income. Are there any other council members? Councilmember Spadola, do you have your hand up? No? Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments from the public? Please come to the podium.
Cheyenne Miller, 7th District Homes Campaign. Thank you so much for putting up legislation to stop people from losing their homes. I think, again, I said this twice already tonight now, once I say this again, like the city has done more on protecting people around this property tax issue than the county has and then the state has. Well, I should probably not say that and get yelled at by state people, but like, a lot of things that are being put up today are really going to help people keep their homes, and I think that's super and commendable. And one of the things that I think is super important is that we don't do foreclosures. It is really hard to see that the state is going through all of this rigmarole around how to address this issue, knowing that these numbers were wrong, and to know that the county will still move forward with sheriff sales if they want to, right? And so it's just super important that the city takes a stand, I think, and says that we're not going to move forward with sheriff sales knowing that there's all of these issues with the property taxes. I think the other thing that's super important is that we need to address the fact that people are struggling like really, really bad. And these property taxes do need to be paid so the city can get the money it's necessary. But right now, the city's leaving tons and tons of money on the table when it comes to the commercial properties that are undervalued. And so when we're talking about accountability, I hope we are using that same attitude to talk about accountability with commercial properties, large ones that are being undervalued and that aren't paying their fair share in taxes. The other thing I think is super important is that we think about the role that payment plans have. I do wonder if we could talk about how many times you can default on a payment plan before you are decided by the city decides that you can't get back on. It would be nice to know like how many times. Is that a question we could have answered?
Well, as I mentioned before, our rules say that if you fall off a payment plan, you really need to wait 12 months before you get on a new payment plan. And the reason for that is because the expectation of default, there may be a greater expectation of default on the second time around. But like I said, there are opportunities for us we've deviated from that particular policy when in circumstances when they ask.
Thank you.
I mean, we try to meet the customers where they are. Now, there may be some inconsistencies from agent to agent, and that's an educational issue that Councilmember Willauer just addressed. But I think that we'll go ahead and revisit it, and we'll make it really, really kind of firm. Again, I'm not quite sure what the balance is between allowing them to come back on if there's that such high default rate. I just want to be careful, again, about the accountability issue. But, all I can do is give you our assurances that we do the best we can when the customers come in.
The other thing I wanted to give in feedback on the bill is that I understand there's a line in there that essentially says that if you've owed money for previous years, that wouldn't be included underneath of the moratorium, and that they can still foreclose on you for previous years. One of the things I think that makes it difficult is that if you're struggling this year and you were struggling last year, it probably means that you need help, right? And I think that education program that was committed to would be amazing, seeing that go out. But I also think extending this moratorium to ensure that anyone who is behind is not going to have their home foreclosed on this year, just so we can get it all pulled together, would be more fair to make sure that we're giving people a chance to get back on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you very much for all the comments from the council members, as well as those that are in the public. We're going to go to our next item on the agenda, which is a resolution approving 2 new members to the Residency Review Board. And who's here to speak to this resolution? Councilmember Bracy.
Okay, before the administration speaks, I just wanted to give you a quick summary of what this is. And this is Mayor Carney's appointments of Rourke-Moore and Doreen Robinson to serve as members of the Employee Residency Review Board. And I'll turn it over to Javi to further talk about what that actually means.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bracy. Thank you, Chairwoman. I appreciate the time this evening. I'll try to keep it short. The goal of this resolution, as Councilwoman Bracy stated, is centered around the reconstitution of the city's Residency Review Board. The mayor intends, with your council's gracious approval, to appoint Rourke-Moore and Doreen Robinson to the city's Residency Review Board.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes, Javi, it's great to have you here. I know that Rourke-Moore comes from the 1st District. Do we know what district Ms. Robinson comes from?
I believe she's in the 6th District.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Are there any other council members that have any comments? Anyone in the public?
Go Phillies.
Okay, I think this is pretty straightforward. Thank you, Javier. Thank you, Council Member Darby. Bracy. I got a note from Councilmember Darby. Okay, so that leads me to the next item on the agenda. Before I present this, Councilmember McCoy did ask to be excused. I forgot to mention that. So the next item on the agenda is ordinance number 25-017, an ordinance to amend chapter 45 of the city code to exempt elderly and disabled residents and residences with children under the age of 5 from water sewer disconnection for non-payment of utility charges. Who's here to speak to this legislation? Councilmember Willard.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to present this legislation, which is an ordinance to amend Chapter 45 to exempt elderly and disabled residents and residents with children under 5 from water service disconnection for non-payment of utility charges. So basically what this legislation does, and it's something that was discussed with the last session, which is, if a family has vulnerable people in it, and they get behind on the water bill, even though the city of Wilmington can shut off water as a way to and often does shut off water as a way to collect water bills, unpaid water bills, that if there's somebody in the house who's vulnerable like this, the city won't use that as a collection method. It's not like they won't try to collect that money in other ways, but they just won't use shutting off the water. And the city does have a variety of ways, as Director Finance, Mr. Brett talked about, including liens on the property or including, sending bills. But shutting off water, it's just really difficult for, I'm just going to say, like our grandparents, people with disability to handle living in that risk of living in a home without water because they can't pay the water bill is like a bigger deal for vulnerable people. And children under 5, just again, they need access to water. Like little kids really need access to water. So the family might be struggling economically. The city needs its money, but in cases where there's somebody who's under 5 in the home, or somebody with a disability in the home, or an elderly person in the home, that the city won't use water shutoffs as a way to collect overdue water bills. So that's just what the legislation is about, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
So as it was stated, this is legislation that came up in the last term. The council members, we had a number of meetings and discussions regarding what could we do to support the community in terms of shutoffs and water bill, utility assistance, etc. So we had a discussion along with administration. We removed water bill, utilities, fees, and delinquencies from homeowners being able to get their homes put into foreclosure. So we definitely heard the community, and we wanted to do our part, and we removed that. And then we decided for those that needed assistance, we came up for the first time in the history of City Council was to have a water utility assistance program. So if you get behind, if you have a hardship, to avoid your water from getting cut off, that you can call the City of Wilmington and you can get up to $1,500 per budget cycle to get assistance with your water bill. So this council has done a lot of work around supporting our homeowners, our constituents around water bills. We have our senior tax exemption, that if a senior is signed up for the tax exemption, they automatically get a discount for their water. Our other category of our disabled. And so there is and has been and are efforts constantly being made to support water bill assistance. Now, this legislation, I didn't see any income requirements because I didn't. But I also know that children in a household, just because you're 6 or does not necessarily mean that the water bill cannot be paid. So I think we need to continue to work together to make sure that if there are residents that are having a hardship, reach out to your council member to find out what programs are out there. And so I just wanted to make sure that it's on record that this legislation has come up. It came up last year. We addressed it, and we came up with some solutions. So I'm going to open up the floor to other council members as it relates to this topic. Councilmember Hackett.
I'll let Bracey go first.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted, Brett, this is a question for you, and I see that it's for elder and disabled customers, also for residents with children under the age of 5. Is there any way possible for us to even collect data on those two specific, categories for us to be able to say, hey, this is actually needed in our community, or there's a major shutoff in water for these two categories? I'm just trying to figure out if there's any data collected so that, we can figure out how we came up with these two categories.
There's no demographic data that we collect
Okay.
on age, family composition, etc., disability, whatnot. All of our programs are opt-in programs. So yes, we have an elderly, a discount for seniors, but the seniors have to apply. Property tax seniors have to apply. It's also means tested. So they have to meet a certain criteria. So those, but no, it's very difficult to find. It would be very difficult for us to be able to identify them.
Gotcha. And it's a follow-up. And my only question is, if somebody is a senior and they come to you, or they can't pay their bill, whatever the case may be, and I guess we realize what a senior is, do they, on those 311 calls or to you guys finance, do they then get enrolled in the program, or like, is it, I guess,
we encourage them to enroll in the program.
I guess when I say encourage, I guess at this point I'm asking if we know they're a senior, and I guess, it's other requirements. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, we encourage them, but they have to, once they file the application, then they have to determine, we have a means test that is included. They have to show proof of income, those kinds of things.
My only question right now is looking at barriers that we face today, and we look at technology, and we look at 3111, and we look at how do we even get to the point of a senior being able to do a test and more stuff to be able to be on a program. So we figure out now, are they even, then we talk about the marketing. Do they know if this program's even out here? So so many steps to get them to the program that they need. Because obviously we put this legislation out here, and Chairwoman Harley said we're trying to figure out so many ways to help them. But if they don't even know about it, then where are we at? So, and I see Deputy Chief.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I just wanted to add that any senior who receives the property tax exemption is automatically enrolled in the senior discount program for the water bills. So that's automatic. But of course, you also have to know about the property tax exemption program. But we are absolutely happy to use our community outreach team to ensure that we are getting the message out to our groups, and however else we want to market our programs, we are happy to work together to make sure we get the word out.
Just have one follow-up for Stephanie.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
My only statement would be here is I think it's better when we put our forces together. I think there's a great opportunity for council, the mayor, to be able to go out here. This is a major issue for us to stop doing what we're doing right now and say, hey, listen, let's tell our community what's out here for them immediately. I think we have WIT and we have so many different great things right now. How can we go into our community? I was just telling Tina Betts, every time I turn around, City Fest is sending me a text. You have new systems, technology is here. Is there something that we go in there, we start knocking on doors in different organizations? We got to do something here.
We have texting capability now, which is great.
Okay.
So yeah, we have some new areas we can explore, but absolutely happy to collaborate. I think you also asked if Director Taylor had. I know you asked about demographic data, but we do have data on the number of foreclosures and the number of sheriff sales as well, which Director Taylor can provide you, but the number is very small.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Bracey.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing up some of these issues. I have a couple of things. First, I agree with Councilman Hackett. I think that we have tools in our toolbox that we could probably strengthen. For example, the Water Bill Utility Assistance Program, doing a lot more marketing around that, making sure that people are applying. And then also, if there are, and we actually had this conversation before, if people are applying and not getting approved, we need to figure out why and what is the issue, and if there's something else that needs to be changed in that policy and that process to make sure more people are actually taking advantage of the utility assistance program. I also think that, but one of the things that I noticed in this bill is that the fourth whereas clause states fixed, low, and moderate income families. So but in the actual body of the ordinance, it doesn't have a means test that addresses fixed, low, and moderate income families. So if we're looking to help the low to moderate income, then it should be specified as to what those eligibility requirements are, and if there is some type of means test or income test or what, like, I feel like that should be clearly defined, because as it stands right now, if I had a child that was 5 or under, and I just decided I didn't want to pay my water bill because it's not going to get shut off, not saying that there are bad actors in our, that you have to think about all of these things. If I decided not to pay, what happens? Because I have a kid under 5. So currently, the way this is written, my water wouldn't get shut off. And water is a utility, and people are supposed to pay for what they use. So I think that's one area that I would love for us to look at, how, if this is what we decide we're going to go with, that we clean that up so that there is some way of making sure that we are addressing who this is intended for, which is the seniors and the low to moderate income families. The other part of this is, if there is no way or mechanism for the city to implement this because we don't have the demographic data in our current system, then that's another issue that I think we need to work out. Evaluate what we do have in place now, see if we can strengthen that, and then figure out if this is even something that could be implemented, because currently it doesn't sound like it can. I think that was part of the issue last year when this came up, is that it can't be implemented readily. So it's not going to help anybody. Even if we pass this tomorrow, we're still not going to be able to implement it. So I think those are some things that we really need to have some more discussions about.
So as it relates to what Councilmember Bracy just said, who are we targeting? Because again, we should be helping those that are the most vulnerable and those that really need the help. Mm-hmm. And so again, anyone that has children in their home, that is too broad. Mm-hmm. If we're going to even think about trying to assist in this regard, it has to have an income requirement, because again, I mean, we should be helping those that need help the most. And that's what we have really been working on. And my question is this: do we have a balance for the water bill utility assistance? What is the balance of that?
$255,000.
$255,000. And I also feel as though, in addition to us asking about more marketing, we have 13 council members that should be out in the community, making them aware and sharing information. I'm not tooting my own horn, but every civic association meeting that I go to, I talk about these programs. The senior program, not only for the city of Wilmington, but for Newcastle County and also for the state of Delaware. So we, as the council members, we can help get the message out as well. We are the boots on the ground. So I just want to encourage the council members. Let's do our part as we are talking about getting the message out. Most of us know a lot of people. Most of us, we do different kind of events in the community. We can have flyers. We can have information that as we're doing our events out in the community, let's make sure that we're letting our community know what the city of Wilmington currently has to offer them, to make sure that they don't have to run into shutoffs and their homes being foreclosed as it relates to these topics that we're talking about. Councilmember Oliver.
Thank you, Councilman Harley. You took the words out of my mouth. As I'm out and about throughout the city, various civic association, NPCs, I'm constantly mentioning about the water utility program. I like to give kudos to the constituent services. Last week, Heather and the team up there helped me with 4 seniors who were talking about the reassessments. Somebody in the water department went and found that their piece of paper was sitting there. All 4 of the elderly, 2 of the elderly women didn't owe anything. They had received the bill but didn't understand that their tax assessment senior paperwork was in there, but they hadn't received that bill. So 2 of the seniors owed nothing, and the other 2 was cut in half. So it is individuals in the building working, people are calling. The water bill program is working well with the individuals I've been talking to. I'm not saying we can't use more, but we all have social media. Go on social media. We all go to various events. Let's just spread the word. But one thing I want to say about this bill that was a little uncomfortable with, I have a lot of godchildren, nieces and nephews. They all work and make pretty good money, more than what I make. And they have children that's 6 years old. So, and you have a lot of them, 5 years old. Me personally, I don't even think they should qualify if this was, because they make more money than me. So we have to, I want to echo what Councilman Hardy, we have to be careful about just everything free. We have a city to run, and we need to be fiscally, we are stewards of the city of Wilmington. I'm not saying some programs, but you can't say everybody in the city of Wilmington, everybody under 5 gets free water. I don't want to be like Flint, Michigan. I don't want to be like some of these places and I flush my toilet and it's not clean water. We were just down to the pump station. We went down there. We see how Wilmington City, the state of Delaware, is one of the places that have the cleanest water around compared to Philadelphia. They had that big spill. It didn't even affect Wilmington because our water system is very protected and taken care of carefully. I just want to say that we have clean water here in Wilmington, and we have to be careful how we just say anybody under 5, everybody. I have nothing wrong with the 8th district. If you have money, that's good. But everybody in the 8th district or the 1st district, 2 of the wealthiest districts down the riverfront, they got kids under 5 and they get free water. Are you kidding me? No, I disagree. And I have nothing against them. But the pay scale is totally different.
Councilmember Willard.
I'm not going to go for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Oliver.
Sorry.
No.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify what this legislation does and does not do. So it's really important for the public and other council members to know this legislation is not about giving away water to people who are seniors or people with a disability or people with children under 5. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say water will be free. Like, this is not about free water. This is about how the city collects from people who don't pay their bills. So not a lot of people pay their bills. A lot of people pay for water. I think, a lot of people, if you have the money, you pay your bill. When I've done a lot of outreach around water, and many people are like, yes, when I have the money, I pay the water bill. The people who are not paying the water bill, who are seniors, who have a disability, who have children under the age of 5, it's a carve out in terms of what the city of Wilmington is going to do as far as its collections practices. The city's collections practices would give an off-ramp to vulnerable populations, like somebody who's a senior, somebody who's got a disability, or someone who has a child under 5, an off-ramp for a water shutoff. And the way I see it is that the shutoff notice comes. The city of Wilmington has no idea who it's sending shutoff notices to. It could be anybody. The shutoff notice comes. The person's a senior, or the person has a disability, or they have a child under 5. They can contact the city and say, and it says on their bill, like, if you meet this criteria, contact us. We won't shut off your water if you meet one of these criteria. And at that point, they contact the city. The city has a really set of policies around, like, programs that people might qualify for, and they connect people, like, at that moment to whatever they're eligible for. Oh, like Councilman Hackett said, not everybody knows about the senior tax assistance program, which also gives a reduced rate for water. Like, they get connected to that program. It's like an on-ramp to assistance and an off-ramp to losing access to water. And I just think for our vulnerable populations, it's like it's a good idea. You know, we shouldn't be, the utility can put this into its billing practices and still, you know, deliver fresh water. I don't think it's like an either or. I think we can both protect our vulnerable people in this city and have a really good, strong, you know, excellent water system. And I just think it's something that, you know, I hope council will consider.
Councilmember Bracy and then Councilmember Hackett.
I just want to say this. I don't disagree with helping our vulnerable population, but everyone that has a child under 5 is not vulnerable. And I think that needs to be clearly spelled out, because everyone that has a child under the age of 5 is not a member of a vulnerable population. They just have kids. And so I feel like that's the only thing that I'm saying. I fully get that this is not free water. And I think that if we are intending to help the most vulnerable population, then that needs to be clearly defined, and the eligibility requirements should be clearly defined so that we are helping those that we intend to help and not helping people that are just going to try to take advantage of the system. And I'm not saying that everyone's going to do that, and I'm not even trying to put that out in the atmosphere, but there are people that will see this and say, oh, well, if I decide not to pay my water bill for the next 6 months, it's not getting shut off, I can go do something else and then come back to this. And you're right, most people do pay their water bill, but I think, as you said, vulnerable at least 3 times in your statement, it needs to be defined so that we're very clear who that is and who we're trying to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hackett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say you are 100% right with City Council being able to push this mission out, making sure that we go to our meetings. But while we talk about marketing, I just want to say that, you know, the city of Wilmington, I think that we need an app. I think, you know, we should be trying to figure out, look at other cities and how they operate, especially when they're talking about marketing and making sure that people have everything that they need in one place. Because like Director Brett said, sometimes our programs are scot-free on the right, on the left, here, there. We need a centralized location and meet our people where they're at currently today. So I definitely want to look forward to that. And, you know, while I look at this legislation, I think, you know, other council members possibly are working on, instead of being, you know, reactive, maybe being proactive. You know, we know that there are conditions and different things that are happening in our communities. And this ain't just happened. You know, this is always going to be here, where we're going to have different incomes, and they're going to go low, medium, high. But we should be looking at not just assistance when they're behind, but assistance at the beginning. You know, and that's just my thought process on how do we, you know, start to help people thrive instead of helping people just be able to, you know, they're in struggle and they maintaining. So, you know, I think as we look at legislation, we're trying to figure out how can our city of Wilmington residents thrive. That's all.
Thank you.
But that app.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment. I think there is an educational component here that we really need to exercise and try to make sure that we're doing everything possible to educate our community, our constituency regarding the help that is available. I'm very aware that there are special interest groups that pass legislation in other cities, bigger cities, and maybe that is a big issue. Maybe they do get a lot of complaints about some of these topics, but here in the city of Wilmington, it just seems like to me that it's and I'm saying this with all due respect, I don't get a lot of calls about these topics that are coming up. And I do think that the ideals, presenting the ideals are great, and they are ideals that we should think about and discuss. But we have several special interest groups across this country that I know for a fact that they feel like, well, if this worked in this city, it should work in Wilmington. And I just want to say we have been elected to support and to listen to the constituency in the city of Wilmington. And I think we need to talk about amongst ourselves who's getting these calls to say that they can't afford this and can't afford that. I haven't heard one council person. maybe two, but it's the same ones from last term, and it's okay. But I feel as though we are a collective body, and we should be working in a manner where we should come together to talk about if we're hearing some of these same stories. So I'm just asking that we want to help and we want to do our due diligence, but good governance is us working together and making sure that this is an issue across the city of Wilmington, not in Philly, not in Minnesota, Indiana, and places like that. And that's great. And the ideals are good to come before us, but we need to listen to the people that elected us. And I don't know, again, across this 13 council members, I'm not hearing any concerns about any of this other than 2 to 3. And that doesn't mean that we cannot be proactive, but I do believe that how we are proactive and what we're going to do, we need to do it in a way that is good governance and that we're not tipping the scale to cause other residents to have to pay more money with the water bills. Because when you talk about no shutoffs and the unintended consequences, somebody's going to pay. Somebody's going to pay. Am I right, Director Taylor?
You are correct.
And that's all I'm saying is that we have to do this in a responsible governance manner. Councilmember Hackett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to be quick, I just wanted to say that, even though there might be, the numbers of shutoffs might be low today, there's a possibility that in 5 to 10 years that can change, and we don't know that. We don't have those predictions. And I just ask, there's a possibility of looking at this in different ways, like is there a way that we do find studies or finding ways that we can have demographics in the future? Not saying today, but some of this information is important to know because like Councilwoman Willard said, sometimes we send out different things and we have no idea who's on the other end. So I think there is important for us to collect more data because that's how we can be able to predict. Data is what helps us learn what's going to happen in the future. And I'm not saying, it's not being done or not. And that's pretty much it. This is it.
I'm not going to be here all night.
Acknowledge.
Conversation.
Thank you.
No, I'm done.
No, you good.
Sorry.
Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say bravo to you for your comments. I think what you said is what I've said over the years every time this has come up. It seems like it's impossible to get somebody to present public comment who's actually being affected by it, whereas you would think if your water is about to be shut off, you'd run to the council building. But it seems like the very few people who are having issues, they're reaching out to us and they're getting resolved through, through Brett. So, and I think last year we actually did get one email finally from somebody who was disconnected, and it was a much longer story than was originally presented. So I just think there's asymmetrical downside risk with this in the sense there's an extremely few amount of people this would help, virtually nobody, but it poses just grave risk to our water system and could turn us into a Flint, Michigan. Thank you.
Councilmember Willard.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify here. People are saying this isn't an issue, and I just wanted to ask Director Taylor. I know that there has been conversations about how many people call the 311 system and what portion of the calls to 311 are about water. So I know people don't necessarily come to public comment, although people have come to public comment about this. But in addition to coming to public comment, people also contact 311 about their needs. So could you just go a little bit more into like some of those numbers that you've presented before about what portion of the 311 calls are related to water billing and like how that might let might tell council just what a big issue this is?
Actually, if you wouldn't mind, I ran this report last year, not just, as Director Taylor has mentioned in the past, a large number of our 311 calls are related to water. However, a lot of them are just people calling to pay a bill and or ask questions about their bill. I did look up last year the number of people who call for assistance. So one moment, let me search my email and I can find it. If I don't find it immediately, I will send it over. But it was a smaller percentage than the number of people who actually just call about water. It was, if I recall correctly, it was a relatively small percentage. But one moment, I will look and see if I can find it quickly.
The portion that was
May I
calling
make
about their
some-
water bills, like what was that? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Calling about water bills, it's a question essentially of what does this charge mean? What is, it's people who need clarification about the bill itself rather than saying, I can't afford this bill.
So what portion was that? Like how many calls was that?
I mean, we would have to, I'm trying to find the.
You're trying to find it.
No. I mean,
But we
80%
can-
of the calls to 311 are about the water bill or something like that.
No, not on a regular basis, no. They were over the last month because we moved to a new system. But in general, it's maybe about 30% of our calls. But I can run the reports instead of trying to find an email now. I'll run reports on the number of calls we get for the water system and also the amount that are, the percentage that are for assistance specifically, because we do have categories related to that. And I can also do keyword searches just to make sure we capture anything else.
Thank you.
The 311 call center also handles parking, property tax, L&I. The only one outside of that is the Public Works call center, but we still get a significant number of calls in for Public Works coming in through 311. So it is a mix. And I'm talking in generalities because we're going to get you the data. Prior to the implementation of the new system, the majority calls were for what we call general information. The number two were payment agreement, or payments themselves, how to walk through making a payment. So, I mean, we could do a deeper dive on the data. I'd like to maybe do a deeper dive as of June 30th because we implemented the new system in July 1st. And we had a great escalation of calls trying to get people re-enrolled into the new system and whatnot. But we could get that information.
Thank you.
Can we
Thank
move
you.
on?
You know, can I just make one more comment, please?
Yes, Director.
We have 36, well, it vacillates, you know. If you include certain utility customers, I mean, we're close to 40,000 accounts in our water system, right? Between January 1st and July 30th of last year, we shut off 32. We actually shut off 32.
This year.
18 of those came back and made payments. The remainder were primarily vacant houses. The point being is that when we do send out a 96-hour shutoff notice, we get a significant response. It is a trigger for people to understand that they've reached a point where we've done outreach. They have not responded to that outreach. So therefore, we have to use a 96-hour shutoff as really the kind of final push. And we don't do it. I mean, we send out maybe 75 when we do it. We don't even do it monthly anymore, primarily because we've implemented a new system. We don't think it's fair to be shutting water off while we're in the middle of figuring out people's bills with the new system. We haven't issued that list for quite some time. And we only send out 75 at a time out of 40,000 customers. Also, of that, we've got about 13,000 of those customers are in arrears. So believe me, we have plenty of customers that we need to be talking with. In terms of the vulnerable population, please call. Just call us. Mm-hmm. Okay? Well, you know, we've got plenty of programs. We can, you know, we'll take a very compassionate eye towards it. I just think that what I'd advise you to be aware of is that any enforcement techniques that you permanently codify, prohibit in law, lessens our ability to enforce the law, send signals to the bond rating agencies that we are not serious about our revenue collections in order to keep the water, sewer system solvent. It's up to us to work together as a city council to have an administration that is in tune with what the customers need. It's hard to do when you have 40,000 customers. You can't get into every single customer's head. But at least we can make it available and open for them to call us, and we'll work with them. I will make a recommitment to you that we will do a better job at educating. Let's get the marketing stuff out there. Let's tell them what kind of programs we have, and we'll just continue to do the best we can. Thanks.
Thank you for those comments, Director. Councilmember Bracy.
Real quick, Director Brett, you said 32 shutoffs and 18 came back. What was that time frame again?
Between January 1st and July 30th of 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I want to also encourage the council members to get the information out to the community. And I also want us to be committed that if a constituent, and apparently I'm hoping that there's constituents coming to individuals about these issues, but anyone that comes to me about water, their water bill, utility bill, I point them to our program. Number one, if we have $255,000 still in our coffers, I'm not sure what that means. When you look at the eligibility of who qualifies for it, I think that threshold is pretty reasonable. You can make a pretty decent a salary to qualify for assistance. And so again, like I said, I think we all should be committed to, if someone comes to us and feel as though they are in jeopardy of getting their water bill, their water shut off, or anything dealing with water, let us be the ones to take them and hold their hand and make sure that they don't get their water shut off if they come to you. Councilmember Hackett.
Can I be excused?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Yes. So I'm committed to that, and I'm encouraging all the other council members to be committed to the same thing. If you know of someone that's having an issue, make sure you let them know what's available and work with them to make sure that nothing gets cut off. Their water gets cut off, or they do not go into any kind of foreclosure. But we already removed the water bill off of the justification to get foreclosure. We already addressed that. So I think that we can just continue to do better to educate. Any other council members that have any comments or remarks at this time? Okay. The public.
I'm back again. Cheyenne Miller, 7th District, Holmes Campaign. I just want to share a couple of thoughts. One is in the last few months, I did a FOIA request through Holmes Campaign, specifically to ask the question of the number of water shutoffs that happened in 2024 and the number of water shutoffs that happened in 2025. In 2024, there were 560 water shutoff notifications that were sent. And in that same year, they actually shut off 148. And then in the year of 2025, up through June of 2025, the notifications were 111, and it looked like 32 were shut off. I think the other thing that's important here is we're talking about people having access to water. I have 2 children. One is age 5, one is age 3. I've had water shut off at my house before. Not cute. Can't do it with kids. Can't do it. Anyone who has children knows this. They are vulnerable. They are. And I make a lot of money. I make $80,000 a year in the job that I'm working at. I'm behind on my water bill and on my electric bill. I have several people living in my household, 2 families living in my household right now. My water bill is high, and I can't afford it. And if I were to go to the city with the 9 people that are living in my household and ask for assistance, I would not get it because I make too much money. I also think it matters to know that if a family were making less than that, if a family of 4 were making $65,000 a year, they would not qualify. Any family of 4 making more than $60,000 a year would not qualify. And that is not a lot of money for anyone that is living in 2025. $60,000 a year for a family of four is poverty. It's difficult. They can't afford it. For the last couple of years, I should say, actually for the last maybe 6 years, 7 years, the city of Wilmington has increased its water rate by 5% annually, 6% in some cases, every single year without fail. And some years we've had to fight it back from being increased from 9% down to about 5%. But the city is not lacking for funds when it comes to revenue. I sat on the Wilmington's Fines and Fees Task Force, and the city, they get money. The city has tripled its revenue between 2003 to 2023, tripled from $23 million to $66 million. We ballin' over here when it comes to revenue. And every single year, we continue to increase the amount of money that we're taking in on water. You have seniors who are risking their water getting shut off or already have their water shut off. And in order for them to get the discounted rate, they can't make more than $21,000 and $21,150 for a married couple and $15,650. So what is that? $21,000 for a senior family? They're supposed to, so if you're $30,000, you're making $30,000, you and your husband, and you 65 years old, and y'all don't get that discount because you apparently are balling according to the city of Wilmington, you're good. I just think we need to be realistic. We're talking about seniors, people with disabilities, and children. And every single year we come up and we ask the same question of like, oh, well, why are we going to shut the water off? Why wouldn't we shut off the water for them? Because they have the money. I think it matters. Between the whole last year, they only gave 346 applications money for assistance. 346 applications, that's all? But there are millions of dollars that are owed by residential customers. 280 of the applications that were sent in to the city were denied. They were denied. They were denied for the fact that they did not qualify. They did not fill out the application correctly. And it is a hefty application to fill out. I just continue to wonder how it is that we can sit here and go through this, and it feels like you guys are completely disconnected from what is happening on the ground. The reason people do not call city council members is because when I send people to call city council members, they get told that they just not paying their bill. And so you on your own. I've had actual people that I have sat with and said, you need to call your city council member, you need to email them, they are going to help you. And they've had their business spewed out all over the city, talking to all kinds of people about what their background is and where they come from. That's not right. We shouldn't have to come to y'all for help. That's what 311 is for. But if 311 is telling us that we can't get on the assistance program because we make too much money, there is no help. All we're saying is, if there are families out there that have small children, if there are families out there that are seniors, and if there are families out there that have someone with a disability, that you have the courtesy of helping them get the assistance they need without shutting their water off. I really, truly believe that this is the reason that members lost their seats in 2025. I truly believe this. And I do believe that if it happens again, it will be the other reason that people lose their seats in 2028. So I'm just giving y'all a heads up. We don't have to vote today, but you will have to vote eventually on this bill when it comes forward for its third and final. I just think it really matters that you guys don't try to limit this. 200% of the federal poverty line is just not working. Even the state has said that 350% of the federal poverty line is better when it comes to utility assistance, specifically for Delmarva. And as someone who's consistently falling off of my own Delmarva payment that I tried to make $200 on, they can still shut my water off or my electric off, even though I'm paying. And who's to say the administration won't change their mind and do the same? Who's to say? Every year we go through this, we actually have members of this committee who have committed to voting yes. And I will say their names. Alex Hackett committed to voting yes on this in his campaign. Kobe Owens committed to voting yes on this, and Shanae Darby committed to voting yes on this in their campaigns. Oh, and Christian, sorry, you too. Christian Willauer. So it just really matters that, like, the people who've committed, please keep your promises. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Joe Connor. I live in the 8th District. I want to co-sign most of what Cheyenne had to say, but I find it enlightening that I support the legislation that was brought up at the beginning of the meeting tonight, and there was wide support for that. And now we're talking about basically helping the same people in a way that is logical. And I see a lot of opposition to this legislation, and the only difference I see between the two pieces of legislation is the genesis of the legislation. I'm not sure what that means, but I got a pretty good idea. I think some of the comments regarding folks gratuitously not paying their water bill, if you got a person that I live in the 8th district, I can certainly pay my water bill. I can pay my taxes. We have multiple properties in the city. We pay our taxes. We do what we're supposed to do. That's what a good citizen does. I think the issue is we want to help people, but we only want to help people in a way that the administration wants to help people. I think that the assessment stuff has been really well addressed by the administration and really well addressed by Councilman Willauer. I think this piece of legislation on the water bill is also equally as beneficial and equally as deserving of merit. And I think maybe there needs to be some introspection amongst you as to preconceived notions as to supporting legislation based on where that legislation came from. And if I'm off base, maybe I'm off base, but I don't think I am. Have a great evening.
Thank you. I will tell you, from me, it has nothing to do with where it came from.
Hi, Lynn Keelhorn. I just want to start out by saying I'm really confused by some of the arguments that I'm hearing against this legislation. I mean, it seems like something really simple, just to, retain access to water to the most vulnerable people in our city. And yet we're concerned that there are going to be so many other people that are going to take advantage of that. There are still other tools in the toolbox. It's hard for me to imagine that just because we want to protect the most vulnerable, that all of a sudden we're going to have people saying, oh, I'm going to stop paying my water bill. I don't care that my bills are adding up and I have liens on my properties and all these other terrible things are happening. I'm going to stop paying because I heard that they won't actually shut off my water. I don't think that's going to be the response. And that seems like a false argument. I also hear concerns that the problem may not be real because the city council members are not hearing from a lot of constituents about this. If I was really suffering, I don't think I would know who my city council person was, let alone how to get a hold of them. I wouldn't know where the meetings were taking place. I wouldn't know how to show up at them. That's not where, when I'm suffering, that's not the outlet that I look for. And I think, again, that's a false argument about thinking that's where people would show up. The third point I want to make is about the lack of demographics about the people who are struggling and who have gotten notices. Well, shame on us for not having those demographics. We're not talking about understanding the whole 40,000 people in the system. We're talking about, 100 or 200 that are really struggling. If we don't know anything about them, why not? Maybe what we need to do is be creating an office to support the financially vulnerable, or I don't know what it should be titled, but we should have a team of people, city council, the administration, who find out who those people are and how we can help them. And, not shutting off their water is just one way, but we should know a whole lot more. It's not just about demographics, whether they have young kids or they're elderly or disabled. We need to know, why are they struggling and how can we help them? Are they taking advantage of everything we have to offer? What else is being offered, not only by our city, but our other nonprofit agencies that we partner with within the city? We can do better than this. And shame on us for not knowing enough about them to be able to assist them and make sure they're getting the support they need. So I hope that City Council will take this ordinance seriously and also consider doing a whole lot more to be proactive, to understand who the most vulnerable in the city are and everything we can do to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the public for your comments. And it has already been stated that there will be some measures to improve marketing. And I do believe that we all are pretty much saying the same thing, but how we get there, I think, is a little different. I do believe that the council members are very concerned about protecting those that are most vulnerable. But the missing piece here is that nobody seems to know who they are, but that they're out there. Okay, and we know that they're out there, but I think we will continue to work towards trying to possibly identify who we're talking about and get some of those numbers. So I have to agree with our last public speaker in terms of let's look at some of these residents that are delinquent and are in a position to possibly get their water shut off. I think we can do a deeper dive all for that, because I do believe that we should help the vulnerable, those most vulnerable, but we need to know who we're helping and not just taking a stab in the dark. So, Councilmember Bracy?
And I just want to make sure for the record that my statements were not against this legislation, but my statements were specifically pointing out that vulnerable isn't defined. And I will make sure to reach out to the sponsor and give her that feedback as well. It's not defined clearly in the ordinance who we're serving with this legislation. And I think that that's important, that if we are saying we are addressing low to moderate income or vulnerable, that should be spelled out. I also took notes, and I have, I'm in agreement with some of the public comment around us doing more around financial assistance and literacy and all of those things. People are struggling, people are suffering. And we all know that the cost of living has increased faster than the pace of income. And so these are things that we should be looking at, and we should be doing more. So I am totally in agreement with that. I think that some of the questions around what City Council is saying is how do we do that? So again, I just wanted to make sure it's on the record. I never said that I'm for or against. I just said that it's not clearly defined in this legislation as it is written today who or what the eligibility requirements are that defines who those vulnerable people are in the city. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear on the record so that people know. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Bracy. And again, I want to echo the fact that I believe we all are saying that the most vulnerable need help. I think we just trying to decide the best solution, and one that is going to be supporting those that need the help the most without and making sure that people are accountable at the same time. So we all are saying the same thing. I think the only difference is some are being targeted in terms of how we solve that problem versus some of the council members saying we may need to look further, look a little deeper, and have more discussion around it. That's pretty much what I'm hearing from the council members, not that we are against it.
Next.
Any other, council member Owens?
Yes, thank you for Madam Chair. Sorry. In response to Councilwoman Bracy's about defining disabled customers, would that not fall under ADA regulations? And isn't it federal?
I'm not talking about ADA.
Or are you talking about for disabled customers? Are you talking about like what is the definition? What would qualify someone for disabled?
Madam Chair. Moderate and low.
Yes.
What you said.
Moderate and low is what I was talking about.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So I'm just talking about the specific clause where it's talking about children under 5. And in the fourth whereas clause, it states moderate to low. But then when we get into the actual legislation, we're not defining that, so that there's no eligibility for that. We have eligibility for the seniors. We have a clear definition for disabled population, There's no clear definition for who the parents with children under 5. As it's written, that's every parent in the city of Wilmington that has a child under 5. That's the way it's written currently. So that needs to be clarified.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Okay, are there any council members online? All right. Okay, thank you to everyone for their comments, and I'm hoping that we can continue to work together to come up with a solution in terms of how we can better support those that need the help. And again, I don't know about any other council member, but I heard one of our constituents mention when residents reach out to council members, they can't get the help. You can send them to me. And I do believe that you can send them to some of the other council members for the help, because we do want to help. We really do want to help. And we don't want you to leave here thinking that we don't want to help because we're having a robust discussion. We just want to try to work together in terms of the best solution. Okay? So, having said that, thanks again. And we're going to go to our last and final item on the agenda, and that is to update on Fair Labor Standards Act for FLSA audit findings contracted by PRJ Consulting. And who's here from Human Resources to speak to this? Thank you, everyone. Director Taylor, Chief Deputy, for your time and for sharing information tonight. Do we have anyone here? Director
Good evening,
Barnes?
Madam Chair. Good
Okay.
evening, Madam Chair. This is Director Charlotte Barnes, Director of Human Resources, and I have with me Director of Classification and Compensation, Stephen Dexter, who oversaw the work of the FLSA audit.
Welcome.
Excuse me. And I'm just going to provide a high-level commentary, and then he will go into the specifics. I know the hour is late. We do have a presentation that we can just step through pretty quickly at a very high level.
Okay.
But in short, we proactively, the Department of Human Resources proactively engaged in an FLSA audit. So this is on the this is an outgrowth of some of the work that we've been doing in the department from a proactive standpoint. First and foremost, you'll recall we had the classification and compensation study, and then we came before you and asked you to pause the appeals process while we updated all job descriptions and tried to right size and make sure that we had accurate job descriptions for every one of the employees in the city of Wilmington. The next logical step was to say, make sure that all these people are classified appropriately from an FLSA standpoint. And that's the third step of the wheel that we did. There was an audit done. Steve oversaw that work. There were several positions that were reviewed. Very few had changes. I want to say very few had changes. And most of that work was taking individuals that were previously classified as exempt level employees, and they needed to be reclassified as non-exempt. The biggest difference between exempt and non-exempt is eligibility for overtime after 40 hours of work. And so I'm going to turn it over to Steve, for Steve to step through and provide context to the FLSA from an education and awareness standpoint, and then step through at a high level the work that was done. Steve?
Thank you, Charlotte, and good evening, Madam Chairperson and members of council. As Charlotte indicated, we did do the FLSA audit that occurred about the March timeframe, and then our final report was delivered in the month of June. And so I did do some very high-level introductions to what the FLSA is, just so that individuals, if there were questions about what it is, that I would be able to share that. And so if we can advance to the next two slides. One more. And so it sets a minimum wage. Currently, that is $684 a week or $35,668 annually. As Charlotte indicated, for folks who make less than that, when they work hours more than 40 in a work week, that they need to be paid overtime at time and a half. But that is just part of the provisions of the FLSA. And so if you go to the next slide, it talks about who's covered as exempt and who's covered as non-exempt and what it means to be in one of those two categories. And so there must be meeting the salary basis, the salary level, but there are also duties tests. And that was the work that was the most important when we were doing the compensation study and updating all the position descriptions. If we can go to the next slide. And so it talks about those duties tests being executive, administrative, professional, outside sales, and computer-based. And so if you go to the next slide, it'll share a little bit of information about what those mean. And so an exempt employee would typically supervise more than 2 individuals. Their primary duty would be management. In an administrative function, they would be more focused on office and non-manual work tied to management or have some discretion and judgment ability to make decisions. Professional, which would be advanced knowledge within science, learning, creativity, those markets. Computer employee, so doing system analysis, programming, software engineering, and then outside sales. And so basically traveling, making sales away from the employer's place of business. Those are primarily, and again, high level, what the exemption would be for the FLSA duties tests. Go to the next slide, please. And so we reviewed 86 positions across the city. And so 60 of those positions were in AFSCME Local 1102. 3 of them were in executive and managerial, 21 in the non-union category, and then 2 that were listed as unknown, but we did know what those were prior. But again, we wanted to send all updated job descriptions of those 86 to our consultants so that they would be able to do both salary level test and the duties test for each of those positions. Next slide. And so 69 positions were classified as non-exempt. 17 of those positions were classified as exempt or unknown. And so the changes that were recommended by the consultants were that all 69 non-exempt positions would remain non-exempt. 1 position whose classification was unknown should be non-exempt. And then of the 16 positions that were classified exempt, only 8 of them should remain exempt, while the other 8 should be changed to non-exempt. And so as Charlotte indicated, it was only a very few positions that needed to be changed to the non-exempt category. And I'm going to highlight those on the next slide. And so those positions were the assistant sanitation supervisor in 1102, delinquent accounts agents, and there were a few of those which were also in 1102, earned income tax agent, again, a few of those, 1102, the arts and program administrator in E&M, the constituent services officers in E&M, and then the legal assistants 1 and 2, as well as a nuisance property administrator in the non-union pay grade. And so those were the 8 positions, not people, but positions that were changed from exempt to non-exempt, now qualifying them for overtime for hours worked more than 40 in a pay week. Next slide. And so the Department of Labor gives guidance on how we address back wages for individuals whose classifications may change. Generally, that is a 2-year statute of limitations. In the case of unintentional or unknowing changes to the FLSA. In the case of willful violations, meaning that we knowingly were not paying people correctly, that statute goes up to 3 years. And so I indicated we received our report around June 12th. And so our look back period then was 2 years prior to that. And so we looked back June 12, 2023 through the date of the report. We calculated for those individuals who did receive straight time overtime, and we did the multiplier of 0.5 to give them the other part of the time and a half. The total amount of that ended up being roughly $22,000, and the payments were made to those impacted employees on September 19th. Next slide. And so again,
I'll jump in right now, Steve. What you should know is that the people that were impacted, they have received compensation for not being paid overtime at time and a half. As Steve indicated, they received the other 0.5 of the time and a half. What's the biggest change here? The biggest change is that these individuals who were previously exempt, they only had to badge in. They did not have to badge in and out. So exempt level employees swipe their badge to record their attendance and to record that they're at work on a given day. They are not required to swipe out. Non-exempt employees are hourly employees, so they must swipe their badge in and swipe their badge out when they leave so that they are paid for their time work, and then we could also record any time that they work over the 40 hours. So the biggest change here is, one, if you previously were exempt and now you're non-exempt, you must badge in and out. That could potentially be the downside for somebody. The upside is whenever you work more than 40 hours, the city is obligated, duty bound by the law to pay you time and a half for your hours over 40. So I wanted to make sure that if there was any concern that people were disadvantaged or somehow harmed in this regard, the financial benefit is that you'll be paid time and a half when you are required to work more than 40 hours in a week. If the concern is the minor inconvenience of badging in and out, that's a requirement. And so we just wanted to make sure that we had provided that level of context and information. And we stand ready to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you to the both of you, Councilmember Oliver and then Councilmember Owens.
Thank you. Well, I have a few things I'd like to say, and then you could come back to me. I've myself and Councilman Owens met with several individuals who contact us regarding this, and I was very disappointed. To me, you could say this is something like another Tyler Technology, the way this was handled, based on several of their conversations. This came out in June. The individuals we talked to received the letter. They have been here for years. I just thought I agreed that someone could have had a conversation with them. Some of their job descriptions was not updated. And to have an individual who worked for the city of Wilmington for over 30, some of them were 30, 20, whatever it was, to not have the proper consideration of being called into office, having a conversation. I thought it's sad, very saddening. And to just send them a letter, individuals, because it was about four we've talked to, right? So imagine, I'm going to use Councilman, I'm going to use Marshall. I'm going to use you, Charlotte. You are a non-exempt. You come in and out the office. How often would you, and you've been in this administration for a long time, how often would you or Marshall be swiping your badge? That's one thing. How often, if you're non-exempt and you work for the mayor's office and you're out in the field and you're doing this and you're doing that, people come in at 7 o'clock, they stay to 5 o'clock, and they never ask for overtime. And then, y'all go out and you get this survey, and it was in June, and now they're just being contact. We had, I know the two of them, their job description was not even updated because they came in and showed us how old it was before it was updated and showed us the new updated one. And I was just shocked that HR hadn't really did a better job at this. I thought when we approved for this compensation, it was for to make sure everyone a certain level of income, even though we know that didn't happen. But to see this happen and the way that it has happened, and for y'all to just say this so callously, like, oh, well, the only change is this. No, the only change is that it's individuals who be working at work for the city of Wilmington who have been affected, who feel some kind of way. And just to hear y'all say, like, oh, it wasn't no big thing in overtime. What about a person who's never wrote down their overtime, who was out in the fields, who's been out there in the fields, and now you said, oh, well, this is what you get overtime? I think it was horrible the way this was handled. And that's my opinion.
Do you want to speak to that or want me to go to Councilmember Owens?
I can certainly speak to it.
Okay.
I just want to address the fact that exempt level employees have always had to badge in, and appointed employees are not required to badge in. They've never been required to badge in.
Well, I said it backwards, but I think you understood what I said. I'm sorry.
Okay. The second thing is this. Every job description and every employee had the opportunity to be heard when we asked for the appeals process to be paused. We met with every department head, we met with the union leadership, and every single job description was updated, and every single employee was sent their job description and had the opportunity to review it and see whether or not that job description accurately reflected what their duties and responsibilities are. I can certainly appreciate if someone feels that the communication could have been different. And so we did receive the information in June. It was a draft in June. We were working through and reviewing the draft and then identifying and working with the law department on how to step through this process. So if there's a concern with the time from June to September, certainly I can own that as the leader of the department. It was 3 months, and it took 3 months for us to get through that process. I'm sure some would think that it shouldn't have taken that long, but we were trying to make sure that we were doing things correctly. As it relates to I addressed the job descriptions, the concern that the job descriptions were not updated, but every job description in the city of Wilmington has been updated. I want to say definitely before we did this, the audit, that was the thing we had to do before we did the audit. It didn't make sense to have outdated job descriptions and then put them through this FLSA audit because we would have been, candidly given bad information to the consultant for them to give us a report. We absolutely made sure that every job description was updated. I appreciate your feedback, and those are my comments.
Follow up.
Thank you.
Because she's answering my questions. Let me just, okay.
Councilmember Oliver.
Sure. I did not specify that we did speak to two of the supervisors because after they met with myself and Councilman Member Owens, we went and spoke to two supervisors who stated they did send over what HR had requested, but it wasn't specific. They send over whatever they send over, but if they had known that this was about the compensation, they could have sat down and said, let me make an adjustment here and there, but it was something that they assumed, whatever they assumed, they made it clear to us that they would not have did it like that, and HR did not specify with that to send over a job description. Okay, here. If you would have, this is what they said to us, if you would have specified, they may have added or made some adjustment, and they didn't. The bottom line, I think it was poorly done, and I'm over it. So I'm done. No follow-up.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes, I just had two quick questions. One, in this time period, did anyone retire or leave the city of Wilmington who was owed back pay? If so, what is the process to make sure that they are receiving the proper compensation for their time when they were here?
Mm-hmm. We have worked through that in another matter as well, and so absolutely that review is underway and being done to ensure that anyone who was impacted will receive whatever compensation they are due. Whether you are still here or not, you being gone does not impact your entitlement to any pay.
Thank you. And my second.
Yes, follow up.
And my second was, again, with the total amount, the $21,986.55, that calculated the total amount of straight time that we needed to put the 0.5 on to. How was that calculated for did you just do a rough estimate for the people who didn't have to badge in and out? At that point, it's kind of easier for the people who already had to badge out. But did you just like cap it at a certain number of hours per month?
No, we did not. What we did was we have their payroll records, and we have their payroll records for the time that they made straight time overtime.
Okay.
And so even though they didn't have exempt level employees did not have to badge out, they were entitled to overtime at the straight time rate.
Gotcha.
And so what we did was anytime that they received overtime at the straight time rate, we took that amount of overtime that they had been paid at the straight time rate and added the 0.5 to that.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess listening to this conversation, I want to know, one, what was the issue, and two, was it corrected? At a high
So, Madam
level,
Chair, thank you so much.
at a high
There
level.
was not necessarily an issue. What we did, and I guess that's why Steve tried to give some context and background to the requirements of the FLSA. And so what you should all be doing on a periodic basis, or if someone brings to your attention that they believe that their position is not classified appropriately, you take them through this duties test, this salaries test, and this means test. Given that this had not been done, and also, again, as I mentioned, we did the classification and compensation study. So the compensation study was to say, what should our salaries be as it relates to others in the marketplace? The classification study was whether or not people are appropriately classified within the context of our overall compensation system, right? Based on their duties and responsibilities, should they be a grade level 1, 2, 3, 4, or otherwise? Once you do those two hurdles, now there is, are these individuals classified appropriately from an FLSA standpoint? So this was the 3-step process that was done. There was no issue that we were trying to correct. We were proactively doing an audit to make sure that everybody was classified appropriately.
Okay.
And to your question around, is the matter resolved? From our perspective, the matter has been resolved based on the audit. There are a couple of employees have come to our attention and brought some things to our attention. Mr. Dexter is working through and researching those issues for those particular employees, and whatever outgrowth of that will be addressed as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I do remember when the compensation study took place, and I guess the reclassification of the different jobs. And I do remember that there were these interviews where individuals had the opportunity to share or express, or I guess even dispute, right, or appeal.
So that was the classification process that we proactively went through. And yes, so we did. We started with the department head and said, are these classified appropriately? Took it down to the next level, the division director. And then we even chatted with the employees. If the employees made themselves available, we also, because many of these employees were union, we included the union leadership as well. And so, like I said, if the issue is communication with the employees, we absolutely, I can own that we, if there's a thought that we should have done it differently, I will own that. And if any employee has questions, we encourage them to reach out, to have a conversation with us. This isn't anything that we have a choice over. We have to follow the law, and we will follow the law. And so I would encourage those employees that reached out if they have questions or concerns. Again, we own and accept responsibility and take accountability for the communication issues, but the outgrowth and the results of the audit are the things that we are duty bound to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. I definitely have a better understanding after you sharing and hearing some of the comments made by the council members. Do we have any other council members that would like to have any comment? Anybody in the public? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Director, and your team for sharing tonight and giving us a better understanding, and for the handout, this presentation. So thank you for that. And it looks like this is the last item on the agenda. So,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Director Burns?
I said, okay.
Okay, yes, this is the last item on the agenda. So having said that, I want to thank again everyone for coming out. We thank you for your comments. It was a long meeting, but necessary. That's what the committee meetings are for us to debate, for us to discuss, for us to get ask questions, get answers, and talk and discuss legislation. So I think tonight was a great meeting, and hopefully we will continue to move forward in terms of coming up with solutions that are win-wins. So having said that, I would like to take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved. Second.
It's been properly moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.